Welcome to the Well Woman Show. Each episode is a transformational journey using mindfulness, feminism, leadership, and strategy to support you to thrive personally, generate wealth, and impact your community.
I still remember a colleague of mine saying to me, Erica, I want to be the person you believe I can be. And I still remember that. And I think it was at that moment that I was like, that's what I'm good at.
And now, here's your host, feminist thought leader, London School of Economics grad, leadership consultant, and transformational coach, Giovanna Rossi.
Hello, well women. I'm excited to introduce our guest today. We're doing a show all about leadership, and we're having Dr. Erica Barreiro Volkers on the show. She not only has been the Dean of the School of Communication, Humanities, and Social Sciences at Central New Mexico Community College for the past 7 years, she also is on a 1-year fellowship researching and facilitating dialogue to reimagine higher education in ways that will better prepare us for the future of work and life in the age of the fourth industrial revolution. How awesome is that? I love it. We had a great conversation, and as you know, on the Well Woman Show, we cover the whole gamut, all of the stuff, the personal and the professional. But there was a thread that ran through our interview about leadership. So I did add on the end of the show some commentary and insights of my own about leadership. And so definitely stay tuned through to the end for that. And I hope you enjoy the show. Here's my interview with Dr. Erica Barreiro Volkers. I'm speaking with Erica Barreiro Volkers today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yay. I'm so glad to have you here. Erica, I want to start by asking you, who are you in the world today?
So the first thing that comes to mind is my profession, because I'm passionate about that. I would identify as a community college advocate and leader. And I think I am my mother's daughter. I am a new wife. I am also a new stepmom. I am passionate about making a difference in our community. I love being a New Mexican, and I think I really strive to lead my life authentically.
Now, let's dig into that a little bit. I want to just ask you, what does that mean for you to live your life authentically?
I've really had a unique opportunity, I think, in stepping into a role of a dean of a liberal arts college in which there was a very traditional figure associated with that, the white older male. I followed into that pathway from a unique place and really had to think about, how do I bring my true self to this role? Thinking that perhaps who I was might not resonate with what people generally expected in a leader of a liberal arts college. And one of the things that has always been a part of who I am is play and having fun and sense of humor. And so I really started developing this idea of who is my authentic self and how do I connect with the 400 plus people that I work with in building culture. And so I did that by revealing who I am. I did it through a series of emails that I send every 2 weeks, and it would contain a story of my childhood. It might have a funny picture. It might be a story of something that had happened to me with my family that went horribly wrong and the lesson that I learned from it. And I found that the more I showed up in terms of who I was, the more people responded. I think people wanted to connect with me through those stories, and then it built my ability to connect with them in other ways.
Yeah, I love that, because as women leaders stepping into, like you said, traditional roles that people may not be used to seeing a woman in, or certainly maybe it's the first time it's happened, there is this sense I get from women that it's a little scary to really be who they are. And I know definitely early in my career, I was terrified to be who I was in a role. I thought I had to pretend to be someone else.
Yeah. I remember the first semester I was in the role, I was trying to think of a creative way to engage faculty in meeting a deadline. And I ended up doing a series of photos. It was around the holiday season, in which I was first dressed up with a row of Christmas lights. And then the next photo was with a tinsel hat. And then the next photo was I had little Christmas balls hanging on me. And then the next photo was more lights. And in the end, I was doing a dance. And I sent this out to everybody as we got closer and closer to the deadline. They got each series in the photo. And I was breathless every time I hit the send button because I'm like, okay, they're going to think either I'm really, really crazy or they're going to have fun. And we had fun.
And they met the deadline. Presumably.
They did.
So that's really inspiring because you're able to inspire other people to take action and to work collaboratively with you.
I really like the way you frame that because I think at the core, that is what I do is really helping to figure out how do I inspire people to show up, to do their best work, and to work collectively towards a common mission.
So that's a great segue into the next question, which is what are you working on right now in your role, and how does it impact women's lives in particular?
I am in a transition space in my workplace. So I have been an academic dean, and a lot of the work that I do at our college is really engaging faculty in our mission of work. And I think in that I have been, over the last 2 years, fairly intentional in a couple of ways about how my work impacts women. And I think one of those ways is really looking for talented women that have an interest in leadership and creating opportunities to bring them to the table, to mentor them. So I have relationships that I've built intentionally to support other women advancing their career at our institution. I'm also involved in college-wide initiatives where I was chairing a team that is looking at how do we better support student parents and families in our organization, and how when we bring those supports, oftentimes we are supporting predominantly women as primary childcare providers when we can help student parents figure out and navigate the challenges of balancing or integrating their work, their school, and being a parent. We create an environment, I think, that nurtures the possibility for women to achieve more successfully.
Yeah, and actually, as we heard in the introduction, the institution that you're talking about is the Central New Mexico Community College.
Correct.
And you are mostly, your job, what you described is so big.
It is.
But I do want to pick up on what you were just describing in terms of supporting women to thrive in the workplace and as students, because CNM is actually a family-friendly business awardee.
It is.
Yeah, that's my other hat that I wear with the nonprofit initiative that supports businesses to adopt workplace policies that are family-friendly. And CNM has that. And so you work on those initiatives both to support students, but also to support your faculty.
Yeah, that's correct. So, and I mentioned that I'm transitioning into a new role, which will connect to this. I am currently on a fellowship for CNM in which I am exploring the topic of the future of work and learning and what are the implications of that for our institution. And it's been really fascinating for me to see the intersections of some of the work that I was doing around family-friendly environments and how do we support student parents and what is the future of work. For example, there's, trends around organizations needing to figure out how do we better support flexible scheduling, remote work. And when we can figure those things out for our organizations, I believe that that's a space in which we also create more equitable access to women because, again, oftentimes they're the primary caregivers. And so if they have flexibility in their schedule and that doesn't become the barrier to having to be a certain 8 to 5 person in order to be a leader at an institution or to advance your career. Those types of phenomena, the technologies that we can use to connect to each other, really, I think, are going to create more space for women in their professional careers.
Yeah, absolutely. So you are focused on the future of work. What does that mean right now? I know that's a whole thing. And so what are you diving into there?
It is a whole thing. And in fact, it's so big right now that it's overwhelming. There are so many trends and scenarios forecasting that folks are doing. And of course, I'm really looking at this in the context of what are the implications for higher education. I really believe that higher education is in the same place that the newspaper publication industry was a few years ago, right? We're in this space that will truly transform what it is we have always associated with the experience of going to college. And so we're looking at what is the impacts of artificial intelligence on learning. We know, we already have artificial intelligence that is quite successfully being used to design learning experiences. And what are the implications of that as it grows more and more sophisticated? What is the role of a faculty when all of the information out there can be accessed by any individual? So then what are the implications of that as a role of faculty? The acceleration, the change acceleration rate is something that a lot of people are talking about in terms of our ability to continually reinvent ourselves in ways that keep us relevant, up to date. A student, 20 years ago, if you earned a welding certificate, you could have a 30-year career based on the knowledge of that certificate with some updates. Today, maybe that certificate is good for 5 years, right? The knowledge is evolving so quickly and the technology that this idea that you can just go to college once and be done and then the rest of your career flourishes from that is really an artifact of a time that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of interesting opportunities as well as conversations that are going to need to happen around as more and more employers are realizing this as well, and they are taking on a more rigorous role in employee training. What's the relationship of that to post-secondary experiences? Amazon just obviously not too long ago announced that they are going to be, training, offering a pseudo college experience for their employees. And so what are the implications of corporations like Amazon taking on these types of trainings?
Okay, and so I'm speaking with Erica Barreiro Volkers, and we're talking about her role at CNM, Central New Mexico Community College, and her new fellowship, which she's going to be focusing on the future of work, and we'll be right back. I'm so thankful for support from Natural Awakenings magazine in New Mexico, a monthly green, healthy lifestyle publication, and for support from High Desert Yoga, promoting optimum physical health, clarity of mind, and spiritual inspiration for all. Many of you have followed my journey from consulting to women's leadership and empowerment, starting a nonprofit, raising 2 kids, and everything in between. I've really taken some time this year to focus in on where I can help the most women with their own desire to create social impact and also a good income for themselves and their families. As my consulting and coaching practice is growing, I found that one of my favorite things to do is the free discovery sessions. I love hearing about people's passions for the work they do, sharing what I do, and helping people understand what my hybrid consulting coaching is all about. hint, hint, serious strategy plus spacious mindset. So if you find yourself worrying about whether you'll ever make it in the thing you're pursuing, or waking up in the middle of the night anxious about money, lacking energy you need to get everything done, or procrastinating on moving forward with projects and tasks, or even if you're in a leadership role, but you're second-guessing yourself and not getting things done, I'd love to talk to you. These conversations help me get clear on how I can help more leaders create the impacts and income they want, so they can start living with ease and joy. Plus, you'll get a free hour with me to get crystal clear on what you want to create for your company or organization and your life, and what's been holding you back. So if you're interested, you can book a call at wellwomanlife.com/learn more. We're back on the Well Woman Show with Erica Barreiro Volkers, and we're heading into this segment called Superpowers for Success. I'm going to ask you a few quick questions that will help listeners really learn more about and take advantage of your wisdom and your lessons from your life. So the first question I have is, what does success in life mean for you?
I think success in life means that I have successfully built other people up, that I've supported them, discovering their talent, in leveraging their talent, in using their talent to make a difference in our community.
And you are doing that both at work and at home now, it sounds like.
I am. It has been an interesting journey. I started my career as a middle high school educator, and I love that age. And that's the age I've got an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old that I am now co-parenting and teaching, and it's fun. I think I have the perspective of knowing developmentally what middle schoolers are like, and I'm able to distance myself emotionally from bratty behavior or behavior that just might make you frustrated and angry, and so I definitely am enjoying the role of being a role model, being a cheerleader, helping my husband figure out why middle schoolers do the things that they do, which sometimes you just shrug your shoulders and say, you don't know.
There's no answers. Okay, so you have been talking a lot on the show so far about this sort of role that you play as a leader, really, and supporting and facilitating others to be successful. When did you know you were really good at that?
I think that I still remember a colleague of mine saying to me, Erica, I want to be the person you believe I can be. And I still remember that. And I think it was at that moment that I was like, that's what I'm good at. I think I enjoy people, and I believe everybody has talents, and I really thrive in that idea of matching talent with opportunity. And that was the highest compliment I think that I've, received.
Okay. And Erica, can you describe a personal habit that contributes to your own well-being so you can do and be all of this in the world?
Like many of us, there's a lot of noise in our day-to-day life, and I have discovered that something that is absolutely essential to me is having dedicated alone time, which has become a new challenge in my life with 3 other people. And so really working with the family to clear out the house on a Sunday morning so I can just be in that space alone. And it's interesting that it's not just quiet. It's having no one in the house. There's something about not being on for anyone and knowing that there's not going to be anything that comes at you in that space, and really just enjoying the peace of that.
Yes, that's so important. And sometimes I refer to that as white space. So it's just you can, or even like meditative space. You don't have to be sitting on a cushion actually meditating, but it's that sort of white space where you don't have to interact with anyone. Nobody needs anything from you. And so Yeah. So what do you do when you're in that alone space? Are you like...
Well, sometimes it's just reading a good book. Sometimes it is working on something that's inspirational to me, that I need that white space to be creative. Sometimes it is just sitting outside on my patio with my 2 dogs and enjoying the lovely New Mexico environment.
Yeah. Okay. So what superpower did you discover you had only to realize it was there all the time?
I just used an app that you can actually go through this sorting exercise and get to what is your superpower. Oh. And it affirmed one of my superpowers, which is, I think one of the superpowers I have is vision. I am someone who hears ideas and I can see the possibilities in where those ideas can go. And so I love hearing projects and ideas that people have. And I think I'm good at, in conversation, helping take those ideas and make them bigger and see the vision of that. And then also see how you motivate people to get to that vision.
Yeah. And it seems like maybe this has been something you've always had.
Perhaps it started, my mom loves to tell the story of when the first day of school, I had to get on the bus. The first thing I did was tell the bus driver, I have a way for you to go to get me home so that I'm home at the time I wanted to be home. And so, I had a vision. And even as a kindergartner, I was working my magic to motivate others to help me get to that vision.
That's awesome. That's a great story. And what advice would you give your younger self, say 25-year-old self?
My younger self wouldn't have listened to advice, which is probably the advice I would give my younger self. I think it is only recently that I have really sought out people that are going to hold a mirror up to me. I think it's really hard to face feedback, honest feedback, and critical feedback from people who love and care about you. And I've realized how important it is to seek out people that are going to give that to you. And I would tell my 25-year-old self to find more of those people earlier in her life.
Oh, I love that. Okay. And Erica, do you identify as a feminist?
Absolutely. It's interesting because it's probably not something that I identified with in my earlier years. I think I identify, currently I like to use the term, I'm working on being an equity warrior. And I think that I was always had an orientation and around social justice, but my identity as a woman never really came into play until I was in my early 40s and I started reading books around women and leadership and really felt that women had something special to offer. And it resonated with me in this way that it was this very asset-based approach to what the talents and strengths that women have that they can bring to leadership. And I fell into feminism through that lens.
Okay. And what makes a good leader?
Well, I think a good leader, first and foremost, must lead for the benefit of others in improving people's lives. I think we have a commitment to use our power and privilege to ensure that we are doing everything we can to bring people to the table that have been historically underserved and marginalized. I believe that good leadership is about leading authentically. I believe that good leadership is about care, an ethic of care for the people who you're serving. And I believe that good leadership is an ongoing journey.
Yes, absolutely. And Erica, last question for you. What are you reading right now? What's on your nightstand?
I'm reading about 10 things, but I am reading Thomas Friedman's Thank You for Being Late. I am also reading, or actually listening, to Hero of 1,000 Faces and How to Be an Anti-Racist.
Okay, great. We'll add that to our book club list for the Well Woman Book Club. And you can find out more about Erica and her work and the book club and all the information that we talked about today at wellwomanlife.com/podcast. Erica, it's been such a pleasure having you on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I've been speaking with Dr. Erica Barreiro Volkers, who's on a 1-year fellowship researching and facilitating dialogue to reimagine higher education in ways that will better prepare us for the future of work and life. I love it. So I want to finish out the show here today with my tips and insights on leadership. Leadership success and personal growth are very intertwined. And so wherever you are on your personal growth journey, it's likely had an impact on your leadership. So what do we mean by leadership? On the Well Woman Show, we really define that very broadly. So it's not what some people think of when they think of a leader, like a CEO or a political figure. We're really talking about everyone as a leader, right? Really stepping into your own personal leadership and taking that into your professional life as well. And getting real and honest with yourself really helps when you are a leader or stepping into your leadership. So we're going to talk about that a little bit here today. I'm going to share 5 tips that I use in my personal and professional life. And I really use these, like really try to use these on a daily basis. And they've helped me a lot to accomplish what I've accomplished in my life. And the first one is honesty. So being honest with yourself and others about the work you're doing and why you're doing it. And it sounds kind of easy, right? Oh yeah, being honest with yourself and others. And then actually when you really dig into it, it can be challenging because what we know to be true is often not aligned with what we say and do. And so aligning those two things is about honesty and being honest and truthful with ourselves and with others. And also authenticity, which Dr. Barreiro Volkers talked about, being who you are, not trying to be what you think you should be or what you think a leader should be. And many times we as women are challenged with this because we're taught from a very male-centered model about leadership, and we tend to think that we need to replicate those skills or styles of leadership. And actually, what we're saying here on the Well Woman Show is no, you don't. You can be you and be a great leader. In fact, you can be a better leader by being you. And being you means really wholly, fully embracing who you are, whether it's the quirky things in your past or your feminine attributes, whatever it is, it's bringing those with you and letting them shine and letting them support your leadership. And also part of this first tip, we're still on the first tip here, is listening to yourself, right? So really listening in order to align the truth of who you are with what you say and do. Okay, number 2 is give. Be of service, be a mentor someone, nominate someone for an award, provide leadership opportunities for those you work with, give more than you ask. So that is a great quality of leadership that I try to do as well. Number 3, follow through. Do what you say you're going to do. And don't say you'll do what you're not going to do, right? It's very simple, but it's a challenge to really stick to this one. So that's number 3, follow through. Number 4, know your skills and tools. Know and use the tools in your toolbox. So really take a look at your skill set. Ask for input from friends and family. You can do any number of skills surveys and really get to know like what are your skills. And it may be that you've got great skills that you are not using. So you want to do that. It's almost like an inventory of your skills and tools. And number 5, don't take yourself too seriously. And I say this very seriously. Really, don't take yourself too seriously. We're all in this game, which is life, and we're all trying to do our best. Hopefully we are all trying to do our best, and we can be a little more lighthearted about things, I think, and really look at what's really important here. and not take things too seriously. So those are my 5 quick tips on leadership for you at the end of the show, closing out the show with Dr. Erica Barreiro Volkers. And many of you know about my own journey of leadership, my journey from consulting to women's leadership and empowerment, creating this radio show, which is now on NPR, starting a nonprofit, raising 2 kids, and everything else in between. And I've really taken some time this year to focus in on how I can support the most women in this community with your own desire to create social impact and also a good income for yourself and your families. So if you're interested in that, in my work to support women to really grow and flourish as leaders and enjoy life, email me info@wellwomanlife.com, and I'd love to talk to you about it. That's it for our show today. Remember, if you need support to live your Well Woman life, head over to wellwomanlife.com/Facebook to join our community. As a reminder, we are on NPR every week, so be sure to tune in at npr.org/podcasts and search for The Well Woman Show. If you enjoyed today's show, please take a moment and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and leave a review. This helps raise visibility, which is super helpful when it comes to producing the show every week. For feedback, comments, or just to let me know you were listening, find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Well Woman Life. I'm Giovanna Rossi for The Well Woman Show. Until next time, have a super powerful week.